Hey everyone, today we're looking at the 9.8 meta and where it's landed, and what you might want to play, ban, or avoid in solo queue if you really care about climbing quickly. There are timestamps and a list in the description. Someone will also probably copy paste that into a comment. There's also a giveaway going on for the Rengar Kitty Cat Chroma skins for NA in the US, plus some Mobile 6 Premium for everybody. Details are all down below. We're going to start with AD carries, and I think there is a new best one at the moment. Jinx is stronger every single patch, and even stronger at lower ranks, especially for solo queue. She just basically snowballs out of control every game. Most AD carries will get a kill, and then they have to base, or they get like one plate, right? But Jinx will get a kill, maybe another kill from the reset afterwards, and then more plays than any other AD. You have high range, you're very easy to play, you're pretty safe, you don't have to attack move well with the reset, you farm well, so even more gold, but basically you're really high range, you get a lot of gold, a lot more items, and stand a much bigger chance to carry. Sivir is also a lot better in 9.8. She also farms very well, gets more gold on average than most other AD carries because you just have your WQ down the wave, right? Which means more items, and then you get to your crit power spikes. It's very hard to lose your lane as Sivir, and I think this is why she is so good at low ranks as well. You can do more with her, obviously, but basically you AFK push against a harder lane. You just push into tower, you leave it alone, you stay away, and that's pretty much it. You are ultra safe as well, though. You have a spell shield, you have your Phantom Lancer shield, a high range with your W bounces. Even though she is low range, you're not really going to get in auto attack range very often because you're bouncing down the line. The run up for me though, the second best AD is still going to be Vayne. I think she wins games from like 2 items really. You have the highest DPS out there probably after that out of any AD carry, but you're not great at like ending the game early, but you're amazing later. With a strong support, and actually sometimes even without a strong support, at level 3 in press attack you can win your lane and start killing people though, and that's not good for a late game hyper carry, and that is why she's so dominant. Once she gets going though, she is very hard to shut down. You have your stealth, your tumble all the time now because of that buff, insane damage anyway because of Rage Blade, and you shred objectives. Jhin had some buffs on this patch to his ultimate damage and his traps, so he is my honorable mention. Both duration, by the way, on the traps, and then the recharge rate later. Sounds weird, but he follows a very similar pattern to how a Kayle looks like at the moment in the game. Can be good early and get ahead, but then dips a little bit mid-game and powers up with the triple crit build when you get to later. Jhin brings more than just damage though. He does zoom around, he does have good damage anyway, which is really good for this meta, and you also can run a double Infinity Edge build. It sounds really weird, but it's loads of AD, and actually the crit on it does stack, so you're still going to be getting a lot of crit and a lot of AD from both of them. Let's move on to our mid laners. The biggest change here is probably that Zed is no longer like top tier. He's still quite good. He was nerfed last patch though to the W cooldown, the shadow cooldown, and also the Q damage was lowered. Ahri is probably going to take his place as the best now just because she's ultra safe and you can't really go wrong with Ahri at the moment. She's the most well-rounded mid laner, and they have 2 really good builds. Either you can go full burst like Ludens and stuff. It's a bit harder to play, but it's more rewarding if you hit that charm because you definitely one-shot, even though it's kind of overkill really. One that a lot of high elo players are playing at the moment and abusing is the GLP Glacial build though. You slow them, you hit them with the charm and the Q, basically guaranteed. It's really good for team fighting and catching people. It's a nasty build. It's hard to play against, but it's very easy to play it. One that is most improved or kind of much better is Lux at the moment. She's quietly getting really good at the moment and wins a lot of matches early to mid game. Sounds weird for a pro champion, but she is pretty safe. She's pretty high range as well. Low risk because you can throw your Q out. If it hits, great, you commit. If not, then it doesn't matter. You just wait again for the cooldown. You've got wave clear with that as well. You can poke from range and one-shot people later. I think Lux is really good in a damage meta. We don't have many tanks, even though they're kind of like coming back a little bit, but she can blow everybody up. If she hits a Q on anyone, it is a good target because they're all building damage. She can also protect others on her team building damage with the shield and protect them like an AD carrier or anything like that. So she does work more than just like a one-dimensional damage champ. Runner-up as well could be Zed, it could be a low champions, but the one I want to focus on is Morgana because she is still one of the best picks in the game for how easy she is, how good her wave clear is, and how difficult she is to play against, especially at lower ranks. It's even harder to play against her with the GLP build, basically impossible to get away from her ultimate or to dodge that Q. The reason she's been played so much more mid lane now is because after her update a few patches ago, her W amps based on missing health. It always did that, but it amps way harder than before now at lower health. So way more deadly, and basically it stops the enemy mid laner from doing anything. They can't go very aggressive because you got spell shield and you're just going to push endlessly. One of the most underrated mid laners right now for me though, so my honorable mention is going to be Fizz. He has a lot of decent matchups at the moment and he can get out of control. It's not an all or nothing pick like some assassins though. You have good AP ratios. Your ultimate can let you kill people even later into the game, so you don't have to win your lane or you're going to be useless. He does get better the higher elo you get though, because it's not the easiest lane phase to navigate, but when you learn that and you have some decent mechanics behind you as well, he becomes insanely good. So into our junglers, and I've got two best. One best at higher ranks and one best at lower ranks. So higher first, Hecarim is an insane jungler right now. He can carry himself the entire game, tank a bit eventually, gank well, and farm well. Conqueror has made him a beast as well. The healing from that and also from his W together baits people all the time. I always see him get low. People think they can finish him and they just can't, and he will shred you at the same time. Your damage really starts to kick in after just your first item. Normally you're going to rush that Trinity Force, right? But then he thrives when he can run around and just gank lanes constantly and go between them so quickly. I honestly think he will get nerfed pretty soon, since Korea especially abuse him jungle and top lane. Top lane a bit more actually, but for now he'll be able to one-shot people, gank early, and then still carry it until super late. So the best at lower ranks then is Master Yi, and he was even buffed this patch. His ultimate giving him ghosting so he can't get minion blocked, but especially below plat, he is the best you can play. That really revolves around if you get to 3 items, you basically win the game. You'll have Blood Razor, Rage Bait, and probably a Wit's End, and you just right click people. Wit's End is such a good item on him for healing, attack speed, and the damage as well, the on-hit damage. It doesn't even matter if they have that much AP damage or not, the enemy team, because it works so well with Master Yi. We also have a Conqueror to heal us, and then the Wit's End healing on top of that is just a perfect recipe for a monster champion. He's not going to take as long to power up anymore, so you get to your spike pretty much mid game and then you take over. One that is a lot better in this patch that really actually drastically shot up was Amumu. He still sucks something else early game, but mid game is nuts now. He was buffed to have more passive damage, a lower Q cooldown, and it'll follow people who dash after being hit as well. So Korea actually play him AP, and they got like full damage to kill stuff as well. Rest of the world though, not so much, and we're going to focus on the rest, the tank build. If you want to see some AP though, I will link the Korea video down below. So it's a really good and clever build that we've had for a while, right? Cinderhulk, Abyssal Mask, Thornmail, and Liandry's. The Cinderhulk and the Thornmail damage is magic damage, which turns into true damage from Amumu's passive. The Abyssal Mask also increases the damage by 15%, and the Liandry's by 10% once that's active. So it's a tanky build. You survive a long time when you dive in, but you also kill people with it. It has a surprising amount of damage. So last up, honorable mention for Jarvan is slowly replacing Rek'Sai as the early game monster, pretty much any other champion actually for early game. His win rate is highest when he can camp a lane and snowball really hard. He has no majorly bad matchups. Against carries, he'll be able to kill them, and against tanks, he is tanky enough to last while his team follows up, which is great, so you can pick him into any game. Jarvan brings everything, really. Good ganks, engage for the team, an attack speed buff, damage, a front line. That is why he is so good, and you can pick him every single game. Onto our top laners then, and I think Riven has kind of taken the crown back. She is back on top now after Kayle was nerfed. You can sort of build anything you like nowadays and it'll work. That is how strong she is. You can't really go wrong when you pick her either into any matchup. Most matchups are skill based, or there's a chance for you to be able to win them at an item or a level breakpoint at least, or if you just really scale into the game. Spear of Sojin is still nuts. Ghost Bait can work versus lower health teams. Death Dance and Conqueror together are insane with the healing as well. So it isn't just Riven, it is literally everything. Runes, items, and Riven all stuck together. Renekton is noticeably better in this patch though. He was buffed to mainly make his healing better versus champions, especially when empowered and especially when surrounded by a few of them. He's kind of like a Darius, think of it like that, right? Amazing in the lane phase. Press attack has amazing synergy for damage. Conqueror has great synergy with the healing, so you can play either keystone, it doesn't really matter. Spear of Sojin though provides a lot of CDR, but since your Q is buffed to heal for more, when you're able to use it more because of the CDR, you even get more healing out of it, if that makes sense, so it's a better buff. The difference really now to previously is that he can get a big enough lead in the lane phase sometimes to steamroll the game and end before the enemy laner has a chance to catch back up again, and that's really important for a lane bully. A runner-up for top lane, and I think the second best champion after Riven would be Jax, and I swear with Conqueror now, he's supposed to be a late game champion, but even at one item, he is able to sometimes just get out of control. He can nuke towers down, get gold from that. You've always got to worry about that split push, but it's actually the scaling part with the items, right? Spear of Sojin probably has the best synergy on this guy rather than anybody else because you can use his counter-strike so much and his damage as well, but then again, pairing that up with hysterics for more health and a really big shield. It's great for Jax because there's no pressure when you play him in solo queue, since if the game goes a lot later, you'll always be useful, and at lower ranks, games don't end as quickly, but it is kind of a ticking time bomb for the enemy team to end before he gets to that stage. Honorable mention then, and our last one for top lane is Kayle, who is weaker now because her early game is weaker, but her late game is still just as strong if she does get there. The crit build has sort of fizzled out a little bit now as well. Most of the time, it is Nash's Tooth into Rage Bait and then Rylai's and then just AP like normal because they did adjust her AP scaling to be better, and that means that crit just isn't as good. You can also go Blade though. If you're against a big tank, Blade Ring King's a really good item on her. To be honest, it actually doesn't really matter that much because you're really just aiming to get to level 16 as soon as possible into the game, or at least level 11. Last up then we have our supports, and Sona is basically like Kayle now as well. It's really good that it leads on to another because everything that I've said for Kayle pretty much applies to Sona. She scales really well with items, but it's getting to those ultimate rank ups that really change the game for her. At level 11, she can already spam her heals and her damage up constantly, and it is just way too much to deal with in a team fight. She will buff everybody around her, and the enemy team can't really deal with that. In lane, she can poke pretty well, or just help a bad AD to farm, which is great, but the best way to beat her, like at any stage, is just to focus her down and get rid of her at the very start of a fight, which is what happens in lane. Sometimes you can get smashed, but it's just really hard to do. She can apply sensor to everybody with her shielding. She can set up really big fights with her ultimate or kills as well. She can go damage herself and be a legit threat with power cores and Lich Bane, so there's a lot of things you can do with Sona. Next up, Nautilus is the new support on the block right now. Much better in 9.8. His Q damage was buffed this patch, as well as the passive root duration was tweaked to be better. He is the ultimate kill lane now. Very tanky. One hook is normally going to be a kill because he's got an insane amount of crowd control and it's very hard to avoid. The ultimate is point and click, right? If you're knocked up by that, you're probably going to get hooked afterwards, then rooted by the passive, and that is not counting his damage, which is really high, or the follow-up from his team. He's getting banned more every single day since he's so good at the moment. You can play in top lane and mid lane as well. He works in every game into any lane pretty much. Does too much damage for a tank, which makes it very hard to fight back. After those two, we have Nami, which is kind of like a middle ground really. More early to mid game focus than Sona. Nami's strength is winning a lane with a lane bully normally going ham together. She can heal spam and keep her AD farming and fighting, which is really good. Use it to poke as well if they aren't fighting back, and that alone can sometimes just win lanes versus passive players. The bubble though and the ultimate, that is how you get most of your kills afterwards. So you normally poke them down a little bit with your healing, and then you go to cash in afterwards. A good Nami definitely shows. Like, you can tell how good they are when they use their abilities. Like, they can disrupt for so long, keep people alive as well, boost their AD's damage, and is always a good choice. So that is going to wrap up today. Thank you for watching. Remember to check out the giveaway in the description or pinned comment, whichever it is, and I'll be streaming right now if you fancy coming over to watch. For now though, I will leave you with the robots.